Going
Okay.
to sing the song.
Oh god.
Let's get started.
So it actually has a jingle.
Hey, everybody!
It
I
actually
think
has
it
a
really
jingle.
should have a jingle. I think we
Does
should
it?
pay someone that's not
It
me to
seems,
sing it.
it seems very upbeat for a section that we're really meant to be getting angry about.
Let's get some
You
days.
don't want to be paid for it?
I can't sing. That was me angry. That's me
Menacing.
angry.
That's good. It's
Yeah.
a good anger.
Don't want to mess with me.
If this is your first time watching Let's Get
She
Salty,
games harder than you.
Sorry. We're going to be discussing something that at least one of us is angry about, or at least is passionate about. And this week, we got a suggestion that stemmed from a conversation that I had online through Twitter.
Yes.
So a conversation that myself and Alon, at Alon133, discussed in regards to the aging of games and whether or not their greatness can be reduced with time.
Right.
Yeah. And that's greatness in the sense of replayability, like going back and playing it again.
Is a game
Yeah.
still as good as it once was now that
we
time has
blinded by
passed?
Do
nostalgia.
great
Okay, so
games
for-
stop
yeah.
being great
So
as
salt,
they
when we
age?
get salty,
age.
usually it has to be a statement.
Oh,
So
this is more of a
you
question.
say a game's value cannot be diminished by its age,
Schooled. Amy.
right?
Okay,
Is
sure.
that your opinion?
My opinion is that a great game will always be great.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's true, and because people will always say for its
false.
time.
Oh, we've got the.
I'm
so
false
you're-
with you as
So
well.
you two are on Alon's
All
side,
right,
yes.
interesting. Okay.
I think there are different types of games. There's a game, like if you compare two games that came out at the time of their life, one was a 10 out of 10, the other was a 10 out of 10. It is possible that one would age gracefully and one would turn to crap.
Yeah. I
Sure.
think it's-
But one
yeah.
was not a great game.
No, they both were great games
They
at the
both
time.
were great games.
Yeah. So I can think of lots of great games that have stayed great over time, and just off the top of my head, the original Pokemon games will be great forever.
Yes, they will be great forever. Crash Bandicoot will be great forever.
Yeah, all that changes is the graphics in those things, and then the mini games.
But see, this is where I think the argument falls apart, because while you're saying, yes, these games that you're playing are going to be great forever, I agree with you on this one. Alon is saying that if you go back to them, if you actually sat down with them now and you compared them to today's games, they will be bad in many ways.
Correct. Some of them.
Well-
not all.
Yeah,
Some.
not all.
Like, I've tried to go back to the original Metal Gear Solid games,
Yeah.
and I can't, because I just think that the mechanics are so bad that
The
they're
control
unplayable.
schemes, yeah.
See, I just played through Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3 recently.
Yeah.
Loved them both. I thought they were both great games.
So how much of that, because you played them at the time they came out,
Sure.
is
yeah,
that the
yeah.
difference?
No,
'Cause
yes,
I had not played them at the time they came out.
I hadn't played the
Oh, you
original
haven't?
Metal Gear Solid when
So
they
is
came out either.
nostalgia a variable here?
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder, is it nostalgia or is it just the fact that some games are great on first play
Right.
and aren't on second and third plays? So you got a game that you might think is great that you played back in 98 or something like that. You pick it up now and go, oh, it hasn't aged very well. I'm not a big fan of it. But you're not seeing it for the first time anymore.
Sure.
And you have someone else who didn't play it when it first came out, sits down and plays on it now and is blown away by it. Which is what happened with me in Final Fantasy VI. This was a game I hadn't played back in 95 or 6 when it came out.
Yep.
And I'd heard good things about it, and I had just left it alone. It was a 2D JRPG. There was story-based. I didn't think it could be able to pull the right notes or anything like that. And I sat down with it, and it blew me away. And I can imagine I would have been only more blown away if I had played it at the time, comparing it to what was out there. Comparing it to what is out now, sure, it fails in some ways, but it didn't stop it from being great. There's a good chance that someone who played that when it came out would sit down with it now and go, oh, no, the graphics are crap, the animations are poor, the story is pretty soft, it doesn't really get me in the same way. Now I've turned my great game into an average game. So I think what brought this up was Alon and I were discussing which Uncharted Amy should be playing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I suggested all three. I said all three are good. All three are great games.
Reagan lives in a world where Amy has so much time.
Well, you're gonna be able to sit down and have a look at some of them, and you can probably actually have a talk about the comparisons of at least the intros anyway.
Yeah.
So that would be the thing for me that the games that do stay great over time are games that are not driven around mechanics.
Yeah.
Based on the technology at the time. So when you're talking about Final Fantasy VI, I automatically think about Chrono Trigger.
Sure.
And the amount of times that game has been remade with minimal changes.
Yeah.
It's kind of updates to the graphics a little bit, but the gameplay remains the same. And it's lived on through now on mobile and on the Wii and on, it's come to think it's on PlayStation as well.
That's how.
Yeah, and it just keeps coming back because the story is so great.
Yeah.
The mechanics are still hold up in today. But then when I think about, Skyward Sword, when that came out, and that got lots of really good reviews. I think IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, which I thought was a bit...
Well, it's IGN.
Yeah.
It's a 10.
But
Yeah.
if you went back, say even next year, if you went back and tried to play Skyward Sword with Wii Remote and stuff, you'd just be like, "This is utter crap. Why am I waving my hands?"
I think everyone said that at the time.
Yeah, so games that are based around the mechanics of the time can age badly.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the reason the 8-bit era holds up well, because it's run and jump. Like there's not or click. Your mechanics aren't going to be affected through time.
Yeah.
And that was the problem for Metal Gear for me. Like the aiming was terrible, and like the camera was bad.
Yeah.
And that's like it wasn't anything to do. Like at the time, those mechanics were good, but I mean, now they don't hold up.
Or they were just new. Like I'm very with you for the technological side of it, because if you look back in the days, Doom, biggest friggin' game of its time, and it revolutionized the shooter genre, obviously, and it sort of brought it into the age where it is today. But you could not aim up, you could not aim down, you could just do side to side, and it would say, okay, that person's on a higher level, I'll just shoot it if you're pointing in that direction.
So does that mean Doom is no longer a great
To
game?
me, I think it was great for its era, but as it stands today with the mechanics of how you can aim and do all of that kind of stuff, it's not a great game. They have recently remade Doom with the directional things, and I think that's great. It turns it into a very, very fluid game. But when you're looking at something and then you're shooting it up there and you're like, what's going on? It just, I don't think it held up.
That's an
It was
interesting
revolutionary, though.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. If the game never existed in past and came out tomorrow, would it be a good game? And you could say that Chrono Trigger would be.
Yeah. I'd say Final Fantasy VI would be.
Yeah, but like Doom would not be. You'd be like, this is terrible. Like, if that game never existed and it came out tomorrow, you'd be like, why can I not look up?
Yeah, which was one of the things I'm sort of guiding towards was maybe it was never great. Maybe it just had a lot of hype. Maybe it had a lot of marketing. Maybe people were bought in, and it was the only first-person shooter.
Yeah.
Not that it was a great
is so
first-person shooter.
There were others.
Yeah. But I mean, but maybe it was just the hype of being this fancy, the best graphics of the time, and maybe the mechanics weren't actually very good back then. Really, if you were to sit down and have a look at all the other games that were out at the time, and say, what does this game do that's new and different? Does it actually do things better, or is it just fancier looking? Because I argue the majority of games that people say haven't aged well is usually because if you look at them, they probably weren't very good back then. Everyone talks about Final Fantasy VII as being this amazing game, right? And there are a lot of people that hold that, and I might get really crucified in the comments in regards to this. But I went back to Final Fantasy VII after playing Final Fantasy VI. Loved 6. Adored it. I think it's amazing. 7 had terrible animation. The graphics were disgusting, as though... Like, I really liked the FMV kind of cutscenes, and I like how they tried to meld the pre-rendered backgrounds with the 3D models. That's all fine. But everything's horrible. They peel back all of the special moves. It felt like they'd really taken a few steps back in the combat. The translation was terrible as well, from Japanese to English. The game doesn't really signpost where you need to be going, whereas like 6 did. I compare simply 6 to 7. 7 is terrible. If I'd never played 6 and I'd bought into the hype of 7 when it was first being released back in 97 or whatever it was, maybe I'd think it was a great game.
And Reagan will be under police supervision for the next 2 weeks.
I think you make a good point, though. I think that... I think all of those games we mentioned were great on their day. Yeah, on their day. I just think that, some of them aged well and some of them didn't. I don't think they were bad games when they first came out. I think that with the technology they had, if you think of Doom, it was the first one it really made a huge jump into that first-person genre, and it was great at the time. And it wouldn't be a good game if it came out tomorrow. So there is different. I think it depends on the game. And I think. To have a game that is great over time, it needs to be simple. Yeah. And I think those are the games that have aged really well.
Yeah. Jumping, directional shooting, those kind of things. Pac-Man, yeah.
Pac-Man aged well.
It's aged very well.
Yeah. It's funny because, obviously the Mario series has aged really well, and it's progressed really nicely.
Yeah.
everyone loves the original Sonic games. Those are still known as great games, and they just haven't been able to mimic it. So if they released the original Sonic exactly the same...
It is, they are.
Pardon what?
Yes!
So Sonic 2 is coming out on the 3DS.
What?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that's all right. That's good.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw that, because I think it's going to be 3D, so the forefront, and then it'll be the backdrop, and it'll be like, it'll be cool.
I'm excited.
That's cool.
Sonic Maker.
I would be down for that. I would be
really
100% down for that. If Nintendo said to Sega, "Let's use our tools and make a Sonic game,"
and when finally get a good Sonic game,
that'd be it.
Although I think there'd be a greater degree of crap than there is in Mario.
It'd just be loops. It'd just be one single Green Hill Zone, just loop after loop after loop.
There was a mobile developer that I don't know how they got the rights to it, but they somehow got the rights to Sonic. It wasn't made by Sega. And they did a mobile Sonic game, which was really good.
Sonic Dash, I think, was Sonic. There was two. There's Sonic Runners, and Sonic Dash.
Sonic Dash
one of
rings a
them,
bell.
I think,
it was called Sonic 4.
There was one that came out maybe months ago, and it's like got so many microtransactions, but it is a great Sonic game.
This was about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I'll try to find it.
Yeah.
I played it. It was quite good. It wasn't as good as the originals, but it was better than some of the stuff that we've been putting out lately.
Yeah. So did the mechanics make something age badly? Is that what we've...
If it's a game based around mechanics or around graphical, like a leap, then I think it ages badly.
Yeah. I'd like to go back and play the first Tomb Raider.
And I think that would have aged badly.
I think it would have aged really badly.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But it was such a but it's hard when it's something that you've played before. See, I feel like if someone played it that had never played it before,
I've never played the original Tomb Raider.
If you played it, you'd be like, this is really terrible. And I'd be like,
but would I? That'd be interesting. Maybe that's something we can test, because I've never played the original Tomb Raider.
Okay.
It might be a good test of something that people really do look upon fondly.
Retro looks,
And, I mean, it's obviously incredibly subjective.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It really is quite subjective. Because there are games that look terrible that I would love to go back and play.
But I do know of one thing that's in the original Tomb Raiders that is not in the new ones, which is just being able to leap to your death, like swan dive to your death.
Right.
And save while doing it.
Do the big swan dive and just go straight down into the dirt like that and kill yourself.
I
think that's amazing.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Be very careful when reloading saved games. Just a tip for all.
Interesting.
Yeah. But back to the Uncharted side of things, since we're going to be doing a sort of a review on that anyway and getting you in front of them. The discussion with Elon originally was that the first one is a bad... Well, he says it was never a good game.
Right.
Even though it got 10s and stuff, he says it was... that he enjoyed it at the time. He thinks that because it's not... he'll likely tell me I'm wrong if I've gotten this wrong here. But because it's bad now, it means it was never a good game. Never a great game.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what you said basically is the same.
Like,
if it wasn't good, then it's not good now.
I mean, if we think about Uncharted 3, which is an excellent game, but it's a game that's made up primarily of, what are they called? Not cutscenes, but events that happen in the game.
Like scripted events.
Yeah, scripted events. Set pieces. It's a game that revolves heavily around set pieces, and they will age. Yeah. They will date as the technology moves forward.
Visually?
Yeah.
Sure. But that won't stop the storytelling moments from happening.
No, the story's good. The story won't date. But how much of that game is, based around its graphical leap forwards in terms of its set events, or how much is just direct story? Because it is a balance. And Naughty Dog are always about taking that next step in terms of their graphical capability. Yeah. And that it will age. It will date.
Can scripted events age?
Yeah,
that's I'm
skeptical.
I'm sort of questioning myself on that one, because I'm thinking if you handed it to someone who had never played this game before, that scripted event will likely be a surprise. If it was originally a surprise to you, it'll likely be a surprise to them. Age won't stop that from being a surprise.
But it won't blow you away. It won't be like that building just exploded and all that. Like it came down in different parts, because you would have seen that a million times. But I mean, the games that you're playing currently.
But yes and no. So going back to my Final Fantasy VI example, there's a moment there where one of the characters, you're on it like a ghost train, and when you finally defeat the ghost train, and one of the characters sees the ghosts of his dead family boarding it and going off into the afterlife. And so that was like a really amazingly powerful moment that I did not see coming. And it's like you just emotionally attached to this thing, and it's 2D. It looks average as, and it got me. It got me right in there. And that was a scripted set piece.
It's a story element. It's a story mechanic. It's not... In graphics, you may not be wowed by what's going on.
I may not see the pain in Cyan's face as he sees his family bored, but you can... everything was there. The orchestral... The MIDI orchestral music or 8-bit music.
And does Uncharted have those moments?
Sure, right? Like when you first...
Spoiler.
Yeah.
When you first...
I don't know. Like,
yes,
think of any big scripted event. Like
I can't think of any Uncharted that I've hung on to.
How about there's a big spoiler. Spoilers. There's someone who dies in the third one.
Is it the same guy that dies in every one?
There's someone that dies in every one.
Like you always think he's dead.
At the beginning of 3. Yeah.
No, this is near the end of 3.
It's
I know what you're talking about. And
there are going to be spoilers.
You're like, what? They've gone and done this?
Yeah.
So I mean,
I never bought into that.
Yeah.
It's a hard totem.
And I think this is the thing, right? It's this conversation in general is just so subjective.
Yeah, it is.
There's really no line in the sand for what is and isn't an answer to this. Is a great game always going to be great? I think the answer is yes and no. Some greats will always be great, and some greats will fade due to age. But is it because they were never great to begin with, or because new, better mechanics and storytelling has come out?
You've just already played through it.
I think all games that were great at the time will be remembered as great for that time. Some games will age well.
Yeah.
Some games won't age. Doesn't mean that you need less of a great game. No, that just means they didn't age well.
You can identify those games by when they get a remake and nothing mechanically has changed, but graphically and the way they present it has changed.
Which is why I love remakes.
Yeah.
I am all aboard the remaster train. Like, I love it. I love the idea that you've got these old games that people know and love, and you're bringing it up to a modern standard. Like, that's perfect. And if they haven't changed anything gameplay except maybe tidied up the controls a little bit, because obviously controllers have differed hugely, then that's perfect. That's what I want to see. I would love to see a big HD Final Fantasy VI remake with 3D models and all that kind of stuff.
And that's what I think they're aware of that. I think that's why Final Fantasy VII is not going to be remastered. It's built from the ground up because they know if they did a facelift on that game and released it, it would still have...
Well, they did. Yeah. They did that on PC. They've got an HD version on PC. And it's got all of the issues that the original had.
Right. Yeah. So, if it is a game that's heavily based around... The story was great. The game doesn't really hold up anymore. Then you do have to take it back. Like, we want to tell the story again, but we want to tell it the right way. Let's build it from scratch.
I'm going to buy into that, actually. The Final Fantasy VII completely remastered.
I'm also going to.
As someone who hated 7, I will be lining up for the remake, because I think they're going to fix a lot of the issues that I had.
Because the story in the world...
Plus, I just want to see Cloud dressed up as a woman in amazing HD.
In amazing HD.
What a selling point.
I just don't know how they're going to use the amazing graphical style that Square Enix can do and have that as a nice like comic moment, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be amazing, especially when he reveals that he's a woman. That's going to be that'll be amazing.
But I'm outside of it. This is another salty topic we'll get into later. Actually, like, I'm not super into the remastered thing unless I haven't played the game. But spoilers for another.
Right. I think we could get salty about that. I think we could get very salty.
Maybe are there too many?
And if you have a topic for us to get salty about,
let us know.
Tweet it at
Hot Chips Gaming.
Hot Chips Gaming.
I'll put that below. .com, that's not how you tweet.
Or alternatively, just get in a Twitter fight with Reagan.
Yeah, just approach me about anything, and I will stop my normal daily work to just have an argument with you about
the Salt
something.
Master.
Yeah,
that's the title.
Or just leave a comment below as well.
It's much less. That brings us to the end.